Hello, everybody. Alongside the Kings Island original enthusiast Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast for Kings Island fans by Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
Awesome. So we have our very first ever guest on Tower Topics today. We've got Brad Perdue from KICentral.com. How's it going,
Hey,
Brad?
glad to be here, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for agreeing to come on.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, tell our listeners a bit about KI Central and its mission.
Well, Kings Island Central is a dedicated fan site for Kings Island. It actually started as a free website hosted out there for photos and started by Dane Thomas. After he started seeing lots of traffic and interest, he turned it into PKI Central back when it was the old Paramount days and included a forum and other cool stuff about the park on the website. And it's just expanded and grew from then on. So we just hadn't stopped talking about Kings Island since and talking about the industry news.
Yeah, so that was what, 2003, I think? So you guys
Yes.
turned 20 this year. I think it was right around this time of
Yeah.
year that KIC was founded. Awesome.
Yeah. And we have a couple other little things in the works that kind of has fallen in the cracks, but we're working on the website and trying to get a little more updated. But a lot of us have been really busy, so hopefully that'll come this off season. That's my goal.
Yeah. So, obviously, I made no qualms about it. I essentially had the same position you have now, so I pity you. But you came on. You weren't on there from day one, but you've been on there for quite a while. Where did you find
Yes.
KIC, and what made you want to get involved?
Well, I actually stumbled across it when Swan Lake got drained and started seeing construction in that area of the park in Rivertown. And I'm looking on the internet trying to figure out what's going on at the park. And just happened to run across KI Central. And I found the forums, saw the people talking about it, and I went, holy cow, these people love the same thing I do. And I didn't realize there were other people who were just as interested in the park as me. And excuse me. And so it just kind of got started. I was reading the site every day, kind of got drawn into it and reading the posts, and eventually became a member. And the rest is kind of history with being involved with the park and getting to know the industry. And I got to say, the biggest part for me was learning the industry lingo and learning the ins and outs of Kings Island that of all of the people on the site shared. And that was so interesting to me.
Hmm.
All right, Brad, when you're talking about KI Central, what are some of the unique features or the content that someone who came to the site for the first time, what would they discover?
Well, Kings Island Central is not just a fan page, it's also rich with content with pictures. And there's an extensive timeline going back to 1969 on the website. There is a page with all the different rides and tidbits about it and information that we've gathered over the years. So I looked up earlier today just to be curious. There's over 25,000 pictures just on KIC's galleries and 430 of the galleries. So they're in 430 different galleries, 25,000 different pictures. So you can really stay on KIC for hours and learn about the history, past rides, photos, and learn a little trivia about the park as well. So I think that's what kind of sets us apart from any other type of fan page per se.
Yeah, I mean, I would
Okay.
agree. Obviously the biggest product that you have, I always thought, was conversation, and
Yes.
the thing that separates you, because obviously the two big uh avenues that they have, and I wouldn't say they're competitors, so I think they complement each other very well, is the season pass group and KIC. But
Yeah.
KIC is for the people that already know the park and they want to discuss the park, while season pass holders has that element, but it's a lot of, hey, how do I use my bring a friend and stuff like that. That's like everyday
Right.
stuff.
Right.
Um, so let me ask you this though. So uh, I can describe what I did as media director of KIC. Can you describe your role? Because I'm sure it's changed over the past 5 or 6 years.
Well, first and foremost, it's moderating, of course,
Hmm.
keeping track of the forums and all that kind of thing. And there's a lot of trying to keep good content out there and fresh content and keeping up with our social channels. And people want to know about the news of the park. And a lot of that comes from the members and on the forums because obviously I can't be there 24 hours a day.
Hmm.
So, I get some of that news directly from the members who are in the park at the time. And then I might post something on social and redirect some attention to the site and have people join that discussion that's going on that, hey, I just learned something about this that is happening with the beast, and I want to go see what everyone else thinks about it. So that's what it's a conversation starter. And I think that's kind of my important role. And lastly is to keep growing the photo gallery.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. All right, Brad, talk a little bit about some of the, challenges that you have in this role. Some of the rewards maybe for managing a fan site, especially when you have one that's centered around one specific theme or interest like a Kings Island.
Well, keeping the site moderated, like we mentioned earlier, that is really the hardest part of the site because there's so many different personalities with different emotions, and we know how those intent and tone come off in written words versus having a conversation. So, trying to make sure everyone's understanding each other and what their intent is when they make a post. Um, but I'd say the most rewarding part would be meeting new people, getting to learn different personalities from the site, and putting a name with a screen name. I mean, that was always really cool to me because you'd have this conversation with somebody on the site, you have no idea who they are, if they're male, female, a teenager, 80-year-old, you didn't know. And sometimes having those chances to meet each other in the park, for instance, or you hear someone in the line going, "Hey, I posted this on KIC," or "Did you see this on KIC?" And you're going, "Well, who are you?" And then you learn someone's name and develop another relationship with somebody that you didn't have with just a screen name.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned the screen names. I remember, way back when I first started at Kings Island as the PR manager, there was a Kings Island event, and everybody came to it with their name tag, with the username. And I would like look at someone. It was not anything what I would have expected based on how they were writing things or what their take was on something. It was just totally different. So that was fun and unique.
Yeah, some of the younger members too, it's like, oh my gosh, I thought you were at minimum an 18-year-old and you're writing at college level on the forums and you're 13. It's just really interesting to see that. And I guess to also answer the question again, probably the biggest reward for me would be actually meeting my wife on KIC. Uh, I will say KIC is not a dating site, but I know of at least 4 couples, and I think Ryan probably knows more, that have met on KIC or indirectly met on KIC and are now married. So I know Ryan's over there thinking about this. Can you think of
I
more
I
than
can think
4?
of
I can think
two.
of 4 off the top of
I
my
can think of
head.
two, but let's not use names. Let's just be happy for
Yeah,
you and
let's
your
not use
wife.
names.
Now you got the flip side too here, where you also have some that, where you've had, the people that met and they got married. You also have those that were married now they're divorced because they spent too much time on KIC.
Well, and sometimes they double up. They
Well, I
got
hope that's
divorced
not going
because
to
of
be the case
KIC,
for
and then they
me.
met somebody on KIC. Yeah, I mean, so bringing back to your point about, somebody posts stuff and then it's like, I didn't think you were like that. It's kind of like when somebody's driving slow and you pull around them and you make sure you take a look so you can fulfill whatever stereotype is in your head. It's like, it's the same thing with the screen names. I assume that whoever's disagreeing with me is just some punk kid, and it's like, oh, it's a lawyer that knows better than I do. But that's one thing that's always cool about KIC is that when they're painting the Eiffel Tower, for example, and sometimes we'll speculate like, I think they sandblasted first and then they do this. Like, we have no idea what they're talking about or whatever. But every once in a while, you'll have like, "Hey, I'm a professional painter here. I'm not working on this project, but this is the process." So you hear like right from the horse's mouth. So, but
Right.
to expand on the previous question, obviously, meeting your wife is probably the most rewarding thing coming from the KIC, the dating site. But what are some of the most rewarding things like from being the media director, like in the park, like experiences you've had, and um, yeah, that sort of thing. That's what I have in mind for this.
Getting, well, after being on KIC and you're starting to get more of the industry lingo and understand how things work, you're able to uh, appreciate the park more for what it is, because people come in, they go, oh, they're making, thousands of dollars an hour. They can throw money wherever. And then when you get down to it, people don't realize how much it costs to run all those rides and all the associates and the maintenance that is required. It's like the maintenance teams at Kings Island do an amazing job. And the whole park as a whole, I think, does an amazing job, especially if you visit some other parks and you're going, oh, wow, you don't realize how good you have it at Kings Island because they really do run the parks really well.
Yeah.
So to me, I appreciate the park even more because I understand now a lot more of what work is involved and the whole big picture of the park's operations more than just walking in off the street and going, I just had to pay this amount of money to walk in here. Why isn't this ride running? Okay. They've got rules, they've got regulations. They can't just open something up because they want to. It's not like the park doesn't want to. Something's keeping them from doing it. So you get to understand some of those little nuances of how the park operates that most people don't understand or really care to understand. And you pick that up being on the forums and different sites.
Yeah.
Brad, you mentioned earlier that, you have people that are at the site or at the park that will, share information with you about they saw this or that happening on a particular day. But in terms of like the latest news with the park, if they've got a new ride announcement or new shows announced, new food unveiled, and that, how do you stay up to date with those kind of things, the latest news, the latest developments at Kings Island, and once you get that information, what's your first like priority? How are you sharing that information out there?
Well, you mentioned we rely on the members a lot, but when the park releases like a press release or I hear from the communications department about something, then I will share that on our social media channels. And there's also a forum, a forum just specific for KIC news and Kings Island news. And it's called the KIC Newsroom Thread. And you can go in there, and I only put stuff there that we know is factual. Either the park has told me or it's already been released, like a press release or something. That is kind of yes, this is the truth, actual news story from KIC. So we try to be a little bit of a news outlet as well in that regard, not just a forum site. And so whenever we get that, I try to build that out into a little bit of a twist in my writing from the park, and also try to give that back to the website as well. So I know that you're familiar with my past work there, but there's always a link back to the Kings Island website at the end. So if it's particularly, let's say, Camp Snoopy, and we put a press release out about that, there's always going to be a link at the bottom that sends them back to the Kings Island website. So that way, once they found out what we have to say, they can see what other people have to say on the forums, and then they can go check out what exactly the actual park website has to say. And seeing that traffic go through, it does send a lot of traffic back to the Kings Island as well. So it's beneficial. We get traffic, you guys get traffic, and it's a good combination. I think that's what we can help do, build relationships between the park. We're kind of helping each other here. But staying up on that is trying to get that information out as fast as possible and share it with not only on the website, but on our social channels as well, and direct people back to say, hey, look at the conversation that's going on.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, so what's like some sort of interesting anecdotal like fan story or guest story that you've encountered or heard of through KIC? Like, is there any like funny story that you can think of?
I can't really think of a funny story, except there was one time there was a story about someone that a squirrel jumped on someone's shoulder and rode Diamondback. I've heard that story. I don't know how true any of that is, but that's most definitely a funny story. I don't know if someone made it up, but man, they sure were adamant about it at the time. So I'd say funny story. That's probably it. Whether it's true, I have no idea. But something that doesn't really fall in funny story, probably one of my favorite encounters and being on the site is seeing all of the members that, we talked about some of the members being 13-year-olds before. Well, some of those have grown up. We've seen them, and I know you've also seen some of these guys grow up and gotten into the industry themselves.
Oh yeah.
And for
Yeah.
me, that is really cool to see because some of these guys, I've known when they were younger. You see them at the park, you've had meetups with them, you see them, and now they're working for Cedar Fair or they're working in the industry somewhere and doing what they love. And I love the fact that they found KIC and had an outlet to discuss their passions. And that to me is really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Brad, how do you see the future of fan communities like KICentral? You know, the digital age, it's always evolving. So where do you see this, down the road?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a nice crystal ball too much, but um, in my opinion, right now, is you got all these social channels. Okay, so back when KIC started, you didn't have social media. So we were like the only other fan site and place to go to get news besides the park themselves when they sent papers out, in the mail or whatever they did for their marketing back in the day before we had social media. So we are also evolving. And so my thing is keeping content up on our social channels and redirecting people back to the website, reminding them that we are more than just a forum site and tell you what's going on at the park because we have history pages. After the announcement of Camp Snoopy, what did I do? I went directly over there the next time I was at the park and started taking pictures of that area. Why? So that way that's historical. Okay, so we can put that in a gallery. And so 10 years from now or 5 years from now, when that area is they're thinking about updating it again, they're going, well, what does it look like before that was there? We have that historical data. So to continually keep building on our history is, I think, very important because we're making history all the time. And I think that's a big asset of KICentral is we have this big, long history of the park. And I enjoy building that more and more. So I put about 1,000 photos a year in the galleries. And in fact, I've run us out of space a couple times, and Matthews had to go in and do his magic to get it to work. But yeah, I think incorporating more and more of the historical stuff and showing people, yes, we stay up to date and we give accurate information about all that historical data. And I think that's what's going to keep us relevant and unique because I don't know of any other website that has the extensive amount of history and photos and such that we do, at least for a regional park. I don't know if you guys can think of anything, but I can't think of anything that has that amount of content, just historical and photos.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does, Brad. I
Much
think you're
less
right there.
the forum site included, as an added piece for members to discuss.
Yeah. I mean, I even in the last like 6 months, there's been something that has like I couldn't remember or whatever from 15 years ago when I've searched the forums for hot terms and stuff to try to find posts on it, and I can usually find it. But Brad, let's go to modern day. So you attended Halloween Haunt this year. What were your thoughts on Haunt, and what's your wish list for next year's Halloween Haunt?
Well, I was happy to see the fog back
Hmm.
and a thicker use of the fog this year. That made me really happy because I know that has been taxing the last couple of years. And to me, that just brings the atmosphere of Haunt together. And in fact, I wouldn't take my kids when they were younger because between the darkness and the fog, I was really afraid to lose them. So I always told them, you're not going to go till I feel comfortable that I'm not going to lose you or something. So they didn't get to go till about 12 years old to 13, like the recommendation
Right.
for Haunt. Um, I kind of use that as my, hey, park says you can't go.
Mm.
Um, might have been a little bit my own fear of losing them in the park and not know where they are. But I do like the fog. I did like that the fact that the chainsaws returned, and because I think that's a really fun thing to do is using lawn tools and stuff like that to scare people. I like that. Um, I would say what I'd like to see different going forward. I wish it was a little bit more intense with the scare zones in the houses. I feel like that's kind of gotten flat, but I don't know if that's because they have to for legal purposes and all that kind of thing, where that falls under, okay, we got to make sure we're not getting too intense in this area. Because I don't know about you guys, but it sure seems like there's a lot of strollers riding around during haunt. And it's like either the guest or not is concerned that their toddler's going to get traumatized, or haunt is not that scary. Maybe a combination of both. But I would like to see a little more intensity, and I don't know how they mix that to intensity versus where's that line, you know? So I think that's a good conversation. I don't have the answer, but I would like to see a little more intense than it has been in the last couple of years.
All right, Brad, in August, Kings Island announced an extension of the Planet Snoopy Kids area with Camp Snoopy. It's going to be a new boomerang coaster in there, a new kids play area.
Mm-hmm.
What has the sentiment been on KICentral for this new capital for next year?
You know, I was really expecting to be grumbling because I figured people are expecting something to be filled into the vortex spot. And now here's another year that we're not getting something put in that location. But it actually was received very, very well. I think KIC members realized that the kids area hadn't got anything in the last several years and really could use a little bit of a refresh. And I think families are also going to really enjoy it because that's a couple more things extra in Planet Snoopy or Camp Snoopy that they're going to be able to enjoy. And the families, I think, especially the parents, being one myself, luckily I don't have little ones that small anymore that I'm chasing them around in circles, but having that play area, I think, is going to be a very nice reprieve for the parents to let them go kind of play so they can kind of update their photos on their phone or whatever and not have to worry about are they tugging on some other kid's shirt or trying to cut line because they want to be next, you know. So I think that's going to be very well taken, not only from families, but I was very surprised at how well it was taken on the forums as well, because I think most realize that families is a very big part of Kings Island. And there's a lot more people in that kids area than than most people realize. You know, I think that's the biggest piece of Kings Island is the kids area, and we have a great kids area, and this is just going to add to that a little bit more.
All right.
Yeah, awesome. So just to wrap things up, once again, for those of you who can't look at the description, where do you find KICentral.com?
KICentral.com. But you can also follow us on Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We've been a little more active there, and I've been. That's actually kind of a little hobby of mine is between the photos, and now I've been dabbling a little bit into the video stuff and kind of learning some of that. So I may not be great at it, but I'm kind of learning as we go. And we've also now that Threads is out, you can join us on Threads as well. So we got lots of different channels you can follow us on and join us on the forums and join a discussion and join other people who are very passionate about the park.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job on X. I see those come up in my timeline all the time.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So we'll have a link in the description to KICentral.com. Obviously very near and dear to me because I didn't found it. That's a common misconception, but I came on the staff about 2 months after it was founded, and I was on until 2016 or 17, whenever I started getting too deep into the industry to uh, commit to Kings Island without getting paid. So
Right.
you're in that situation right now. But okay. So
Right.
let's
Yeah,
move
this
on.
is all volunteer. No one's getting paid for any of this.
Right. So let's move on to our Tower Topic listener question, and this is a pinned tweet at the top of our X/Twitter, where we can be found at Tower_Topics because Tower Topics was taken. But the question is, this is coming from Jared. Any chance Don attends Coaster Stock 2024 at Kings Island? A lot of enthusiasts miss him and would love to see him there. Don, any chance of you attending
Well,
Coaster Stock in 2024?
well,
Because you are missed.
appreciate that people miss me. I miss them too. Coaster stock, it's an incredibly tough ticket to get. So number one, there'd be that, piece of it right there. The other piece of it is if I were to get a ticket, that would mean I bump someone out that maybe they've been there 5, 6 years or whatever in a row, and now they couldn't get a ticket because I did. So I would think about things like that. So, you never say never, but I would say the odds of it, not good.
But you could always get a
Yeah, the
ticket
one
and
year
then
that,
resell it at a
oh,
premium.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, hey, Brad, really appreciate you coming on the show. You're our first ever guest, and I'll make sure that
Oh, I'm
this
very
episode is
honored
released.
to be the very first guest. And if you need me again, I'm here. Or if you need help, just let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have you
We're
back
certainly
on.
coming back to you. Especially, with Winterfest opening up, we're going to want to get your thoughts on that. And then, you get to the spring, Camp Snoopy opens, you got these other events. So, you're certainly going to be someone we're going to call on to let us know how it's going.
All right. Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig, and special guest Brad Perdue from KICentral.com, and this is Tower Topics.